Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Desi Connection. My guest today is Hyra Zaka. She comes from a small town of Faisalabad in Pakistan and is currently living in Luxembourg. While working in an FMCG in Pakistan, she actually got the interest to be more inclined towards digital. And right now, she's working for one of the largest companies in the world, that is Amazon. Let's hear her story and how she got herself from Faisalabad to Lahore and now to Luxembourg. Without any further delay, Hyra Zaka. Hi Hira, how are you doing? कैसी हो?
Hi Adil, I am doing very well. आप कैसे हैं?
बिल्कुल ठीक. How's the weather at your end?
It's a little wetter today. The sun's out, which is a very rare occurrence in Luxembourg, but yeah, it's quite warm.
So, Hira, let's start with the basic question. You're a girl from Faisalabad, as I know it. What is a girl from Faisalabad doing so far away sitting in Luxembourg? How did that happen?
There are days when I ask myself the same question. um, I was born and brought up in Faisalabad, yes. That's where I'm originally from. Um, I moved to Luxembourg around 7 years ago. So I live here now with my husband. I work here at Amazon. So it was basically my career at Amazon that brought me to Luxembourg.
All right. And you originally studied what when you were growing up? What was your majors in?
I did my MBA, but maybe we can, kind of go back and I can start from the very beginning.
Absolutely,
Um,
let's do that.
yeah, so I was born in Faisalabad in a very humble, middle class, Desi Punjabi family. I grew up in that city. I went to Beacon House, which back in the day, in the late 1980s, was the best school of the country, I think. I went to a public university, a public college after that. From Faisalabad, I moved to Lahore for my studies. MBA मैंने लाहौर से किया. I went to GC. GC के बाद Nestle happened for me. That was my first job. I started working. And then 9 years at Nestle, Pakistan, and a short assignment in Nestle, Switzerland as well, eventually led me to Amazon in Luxembourg,
Wow.
in the tech world.
Yeah, journey hai yaar. And in all of this, what I'm hearing is that you on, let's say, studying from nothing exceptional university from abroad, but were able to make something for yourself. So were there days when you felt like maybe you're not doing enough, or was that something that never occurred to you?
Um, Doing not enough in terms of what?
You know how people say that you need to study from an XY outside university from abroad, कोई अमेरिका का ठप्पा होना चाहिए,
Hmm.
इंग्लैंड का होना चाहिए. Regardless of that, you got into one of the top FMCGs in Pakistan, and we'll get
Yeah.
into that journey as well. And then you landed in the most amazing tech company of our age. So, were there ever any doubts? Yeah, were there ever any haters that told you this cannot happen?
Um, I think there was a lot of self doubt. I think it also comes with young age. जब आप छोटे होते हो, inexperienced होते हो, there aren't a lot of people to guide you or mentor you as well. लड़कियों को तो वैसे ही पाकिस्तान में कोई guidance नहीं मिलती. So yes, I did have a lot of self doubt growing up, coming from a relatively smaller town in Pakistan. And also not coming from one of the fancy universities or an Ivy League school. I always felt sort of like an underdog in my professional settings and environment. और कुछ लोग भी होते हैं जो आपके करियर में, आपके प्रोफेशनल जर्नी में आते हैं, जो आपको याद कराते हैं कि ओ हाँ, तुम तो फैसलाबाद से हो, नहीं, तुम तो उस यूनिवर्सिटी से हो. सो यस, There was self-doubt. I was reminded of it as well several times. But at the same time, I think enablers भी बहुत सारे थे, guides भी बहुत सारे थे, और positive influence भी बहुत सारा था. So
Great.
दोनों चीज़ें I think साथ साथ चलती हैं life में, and I also experienced the same.
Stepping out of Faisalabad, going to Lahore, was that a big step for you coming from, you said, a modest family? Were there ever any hindrances? Yeah, was your family supportive in this move?
It was a big step. My family was supportive. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. अभी मैं पहले enablers की बात करी थी. I think my biggest enablers were my parents.
Excellent.
Parents की जब आपको support मिल जाती है, जब वो आपको कह देते हैं कि हाँ जाओ, you know, do what you want to do, pursue your dreams. We are behind you. We will always support you. So वो बहुत बड़ा enabler और एक encouragement का factor होता है
Hmm.
किसी की भी life में. But it was difficult because of other reasons. It's just generally difficult for a girl in Pakistan to move to another city to live alone. I moved for my studies. तो शुरू में तो I was in my university hostel, but when I started working for Nestle, and then I had a 9-year long career at Nestle. For those 9 years, I lived by myself. एक घर था जिसमें मैंने एक पोर्शन रेंट किया हुआ था जहाँ पे मैं रहती थी. So I think living alone, living independently for a girl in Pakistan, that was the difficult part.
Mm,
But
I can
yeah, I
imagine.
did have my family's support.
And usme bhi, was it somewhat of a challenge to explain to your parents that you want to continue to work in Lahore and then live alone? या उसमें भी कभी कोई doubts आए थे? I mean, coming from a father's point of view, मैं सोचता हूँ कि would I be able to actually support my daughter while knowing the situation in the bigger cities? So, did your parents ever say, नहीं बेटा कुछ घर के करीब देख लो, something like this that typical parents tend to say?
Huh? I think my parents did have some concerns about my safety, just because parents
Yeah.
love their kids and they just care about their well-being in general. उनके concerns थे, मगर I think उनका ये mindset भी था at the same time, that I don't have a brother, and my parents didn't have a son, and उनका mindset ये था कि in our lifetime we want to make our daughters independent. We as parents are going to make ourselves irrelevant for our children.
Mm.
हमारे बच्चे इतने सेल्फ सफिशिएंट और इंडिपेंडेंट होने चाहिए कि कल अगर हम यहाँ पे नहीं हैं, they should be able to live wherever in the world on their own. So I think that was the mindset that they had, which also made them take that step and have that confidence in their child कि ठीक है इसको जाने दो, let her do what she wants to do. Success will come her way. इसको support देते हैं, मगर रोकते नहीं हैं. Let's not create barriers for her or block her way for progress.
Excellent. I really, really like this thought process क्योंकि हमारे नज़दीक वैसे जो हमारा कल्चर है उसमें तो यही सुनने में आता है कि माँ बाप को बताया जाता है इंशाल्लाह आपका बेटा होगा, राइट? एंड उनकी एक उम्मीदें बनाई जाती हैं कि जी बेटा ही हमें आगे संभालेगा इन लेटर लाइफ. बट आई एम रियली हैप्पी टू हियर दैट योर पेरेंट्स आर अ सोर्स ऑफ इनेबलिंग form, and that actually is what really gives strength, and I'm really happy to hear that. Now that
Yeah.
you're in Nestle, um, I was talking to another colleague of yours previously. Well, maybe not a colleague, but someone that worked with you very closely. So Danish Lahi was on the podcast as well, and he talked about the digital expansion that happened in Nestle. And he mentioned you a couple of times. So I want to understand what was your role in Nestle as you got into Nestle? What was your initial job, and how did it change over the period of time that you were in Nestle?
Yeah. I joined Nestle at a basic entry level job. उस role का नाम था customer services executive कहते थे उसको back in the day. This person was responsible for planning and executing on ground activations. So on ground promotional activities हम प्लान करते होते थे कस्टमर्स के लिए, कंज्यूमर्स के लिए. सो उस एंट्री लेवल रोल पे मैं आई थी. आई थिंक इट वाज, मेरी सैलरी शायद 25,000 रुपीज़ थी जब मैंने ज्वाइन किया था नेस्ले. उस ज़माने में वो बड़ी अच्छी सैलरी कंसिडर की जाती थी. आई डिड नॉट जॉइन द मैनेजमेंट ट्रेनी प्रोग्राम. मैनेजमेंट ट्रेनीज एलीट यूनिवर्सिटी से आते थे, बहुत से लम्स के ग्रेजुएट्स और लाहौर स्कूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स के ग्रेजुएट्स आते थे. But I still managed to get into a different entry level role. From there, I kind of grew, and the career went very well. हर एक 1.5-2 साल बाद I was getting an interesting new project, a bigger scope and a promotion, and that's how I kind of grew my career at Nestle. I stayed in the marketing world. Digital marketing मैंने start की Nestle में. That was the time when companies and organizations were, very excited about this new channel that had suddenly emerged. हर कोई adopt करना चाहता था मगर knowledge नहीं थी. Knowledge मेरे पास भी नहीं थी. So I basically identified an opportunity कि यार अच्छा ये gap है, इसको कोई नहीं देख रहा, but organizations adapt करना चाहती हैं. So what can I do to learn about it myself? And can I take an initiative myself to lead this area? So वहाँ से जो है मेरा career pivot होना शुरू हुआ. और मुझे याद है क्योंकि मैं काफ़ी entry level role पे थी, मुझे task ये दी गई थी. I think it was my 2nd or 3rd year at Nestle. मुझे टास्क ये दी गई थी कि नेस्ले की कॉर्पोरेट वेबसाइट है जो कि बहुत आउटडेटेड है और पुरानी है. सो उसको अपडेट करना है. उसकी टेक्स्ट अपडेट करनी है, उसकी इमेजेस अपडेट करनी है. और वो टास्क कोई और करना नहीं चाहता था और सबको लगा कि ये जो है बच्ची बहुत मोटिवेटेड है और बहुत एम्बिशियस है, सो इसको दे देते हैं काम, ये करेगी खुशी से. दैट वन mundane task, Adil, I think put my career on a path of acceleration. Trust me, that's what I believe. वो एक mundane task थी, मैंने उठाया उसको, मैंने कहा ठीक है, let's make the website as good as it can be. मैंने international case studies देखनी शुरू कर दी, और लोग क्या कर रहे हैं और जगहों पे क्या चीज़ें हो रही हैं. एडिशनल प्लान्स शेयर कर दिए लीडरशिप के साथ कि हम ये भी कर सकते हैं, ये भी कर सकते हैं. सोशल मीडिया उस वक्त it was being talked about a lot. Facebook was a big deal back in the day. उसके बारे में लर्न करके उसके मार्केटिंग प्लान्स और प्रपोजल्स भी साथ बना के दे दिए. सो बहुत से इनिशिएटिव्स खुद लिए, छोटी छोटी चीज़ों से. ये बहुत सिंपल बेसिक चीज़ें हैं, नथिंग वेरी फैंसी, हाँ, बट नोबडी वाज डूइंग इट. एंड उस टाइम पे ये बड़ी चीज़ें थी, नॉवल चीज़ें थी. So वहाँ से I was given then additional responsibility to manage digital marketing for one brand. एक ब्रांड था, वो यंगर ऑडियंस को टारगेट करता था जो कि इंटरनेट और डिजिटल मीडियम्स यूज़ करते थे एक्टिवली. सो मुझे मेरी जो बॉसेस थे, मैनेजर्स थे, उन्होंने कहा कि इस ब्रांड के लिए लेट्स हैव लाइक अ एंड टू एंड डिजिटल मार्केटिंग प्लान दैट वी कैन एग्जीक्यूट एंड रोल आउट. सो वो मैंने लीड किया नेस्ले में. And that's where Danish Ilahi also worked with me. Danish was working for the digital agency that worked with Nestle at that time. So he was our account manager. So we were like partners in crime on getting these things done. एक ब्रांड की सक्सेस शो की, दूसरे की, तीसरे की, वो करते 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 I was heading the digital marketing department for Nestle for all of their brands. And that's how my career grew. बीच में थोड़ी देर मैंने brand management भी की थी, but then I moved back to digital marketing. I moved to Nestle Switzerland eventually in their digital acceleration team as well. So yeah, that's how it
So
happened.
what was the time period that you joined Nestle and you started with the change of their website? उस period, वो कितना period था?
I think within 2 years, within my first 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you got that opportunity, what I'm understanding is that you also went above and beyond. You started taking on a few things here and there and started sharing with the top management, showed your motivation. और फिर एक brand से दूसरे brand, तीसरे brand. During this time, obviously, you were probably being seen as the person to go to for digital topics. At that time, were you also learning about digital on your own? Yeah, as the work came, you learned through the work. Yeah, तुमने साइड पे भी कुछ सीखना शुरू किया about social media marketing and all of these trends that were going on.
No, I was very, very actively learning about things. I
Mm,
was very actively following all the resources that I could get hold of on the internet. कि डिजिटल मार्केटिंग कैसे होती है, सोशल मीडिया चैनल्स कौन से हैं, व्हाट आर द व्हाट्स अ गुड मार्केटिंग प्लान, किस
mm,
तरह उसको ऑप्टिमाइज किया जा सकता है, सक्सेस कैसे होती है, व्हाट आर द राइट मेट्रिक्स टू ट्रैक एंड लुक एट. आई वॉज इन चार्ज ऑफ माई ओन लर्निंग, आई टुक चार्ज ऑफ माई ओन लर्निंग. और नेस्ले वर्ल्ड के अंदर भी दूसरी जो नेस्ले कंट्रीज थी जो थोड़ी सी पाकिस्तान से ज़्यादा डेवलप थी, दे वर डूइंग अ लॉट ऑफ स्टफ एज वेल. सो इंटरनल कंपनी की ही केस स्टडीज उठा के उनसे भी बहुत कुछ लर्न किया, which I also think is very important, especially when you're young and you're
mm,
inexperienced. और आपका दूसरा साल होता है. नेस्ले वॉज माई फर्स्ट एम्प्लॉयर, इट वॉज माई फर्स्ट जॉब आफ्टर फिनिशिंग माई MBA.
mm.
आप इनएक्सपीरियंस्ड होते हो, आपको बेसिक रोल्स दिए जाते हैं, बट उस टाइम पे इफ यू कैन गो अबव एंड बियॉन्ड, take charge of small things, turn them into bigger projects, it can really set your career path on a very accelerated journey. और उसका बहुत benefit
Yeah.
होता है. That's what I did.
I completely agree. और ये जो बड़ी organizations है, they have a lot to offer through networking and learning from your peers and those around you. ये चीज़ जो है, I think is one of the biggest benefits of working in a multinational. So, when did you get the opportunity to move from Nestle Pakistan to Nestle Switzerland?
This was in my, I think it was my 6th or 7th year at Nestle.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, digital marketing was a big deal in the organization. I think उस वक्त सारी companies जो थी पाकिस्तान में वो digital marketing adopt कर रही थी, और they were figuring out things to execute and roll out. So Nestle's headquarters are in Switzerland. And in the headquarters, there was a global team that was formed. उसको digital acceleration team कहते थे.
Mm-hmm.
And their purpose was to pick up talented people from different countries, bring them to Switzerland, and make them go through an accelerated training program where they would roll out small initiatives for other countries as well. So we would like get exposed to startups that were innovating like a lot of stuff in the digital world.
Mm.
We were part of joint business planning with Facebook, Google, Amazon at that time. We were exposed to the global headquarters of the advertising agencies that worked with us and what they were doing in the digital space. And then that is also where I got the opportunity to develop digital marketing programs for Nestle brands in Europe.
Okay.
So it was a very good opportunity for international exposure. Different countries से उन्होंने लोग select किए. I was selected as one of them. And then I spent like almost a year in Nestle Switzerland as well.
And at that time, was there a plan to ever come back to Pakistan? Yeah, did you already see this as a stepping stone to go further and beyond?
There was a plan to come back to Pakistan. So it was a 8-month assignment. So उसके बाद requirement होती है कि you have to come back to your own country and implement everything that you've learned. That's the expectation. So actually I did come back to Pakistan for around 4 months. But the time that I spent in Switzerland, it was so eye-opening for me. I completely fell in love with Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a very different part of the world, a very different working culture, and I decided that this is where I want to be. I think my next step for my career has to be in Europe. And I wanted to work in a country outside of Pakistan as well. So even though I did move back for a few months, I was very actively then looking for opportunities to move back to Europe somehow. And that's how I found out about Amazon, and that's how I got into Amazon eventually.
अच्छा अब फिर ये वाली बात जो है ना आई completely understand where you're coming from. There is a difference of maybe work culture. I'm also from Lahore predominantly, but I moved to Karachi. तो कराची और लाहौर में ही एक फ़र्क है. So when
बिल्कुल.
you move directly from Lahore all the way to Switzerland, or Switzerland are known for their, efficiency and the way they start their day, they end their day, all of that I completely understand. But when it comes to working in Switzerland versus working in Pakistan, what were the big eye-opening cultural changes that you saw that you liked, and maybe areas that you didn't like so much?
Um, like you said, I think it was a mix of things that I liked and I didn't like. I loved the sense of equality, first of all, that I experienced in Europe.
Explain that a
Um,
little bit more.
yeah, at workplace, I, as a woman, was treated as an equal.
Mm.
I had a voice. Nobody was sarcastic to me. Nobody thought, "Oh, ये तो छोटी सी बच्ची है, इसकी बात क्यों सुने हम?" I was given the due space and respect I deserved as a human being. You know, gender biases बिल्कुल मुझे feel नहीं हुए, which was I was like, wow, इतनी इज्जत मिल रही है. Acceptance मिल रही थी. um, the other thing that I liked was work ethic बहुत different था यूरोप में और स्विट्जरलैंड
Mm.
में. There's a starting point of your work and there's a ending point. There's a work life balance also.
Mm.
You're not expected to become a workaholic. Being a workaholic is not appreciated, it's not required. um, yes, you start your work, you do your best during your work hours, आप you give it your best, आप dedication से सब कुछ करते हैं, but then after that 5 o'clock you're done. आप अपनी दुकान बंद करते हैं. And family time and family life and personal life is also, as important. With professional life, there was a equal importance on health, and on personal life, which I think is extremely important. You need a balanced life. आप पागलों की तरह रात 9-9 बजे तक काम नहीं कर सकते
Yeah.
बॉस को खुश करने के लिए. करना भी नहीं चाहिए, इस तरह की environment भी नहीं होनी चाहिए. So just
Mm.
that work ethic that people had was, very interesting for me. The third thing was general safety that I felt living in this part of the world.
Mm.
As a girl, I didn't have to think twice walking on the road for a kilometer at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night. I would never think about doing that in Pakistan.
Mm.
So एक general outside of workplace जो lifestyle था और जो security थी that I felt as a girl, that was very tempting for me as well. What I didn't like, I think पाकिस्तान में बहुत टैलेंट है. Pakistani people are very, very smart. And
Absolutely.
I still believe that people in Pakistan and those 9 years that I spent at Nestle, I still think I learned more in those 9 years that I've learned in the 7 years here in Europe. और उसका reason ये है, Pakistani people work in a very difficult environment.
Mm.
The country is in political, economic, all kinds of turmoil all the time. Strikes हो जाती हैं, road blocks हो जाते हैं, transportation नहीं हो रही, supply chain companies की block हो जाती है, YouTube ban हो गया, marketing channels बंद हो जाते हैं, नया budget release हो गया country में, a new budget is released. The finance organizations in a company, suddenly wake up and they have their own requirements. Pakistani people work in a very, very tough environment, but they are so positive and solution oriented. I have never heard a no from a Pakistani person in an organization where they have said, I don't have the bandwidth to do it, I cannot do it, this cannot be done. The answer from a Pakistani person is always, okay, let me think about this, I will get back to you. There has to be a solution. Let's
Yeah.
find a solution together. That's how a Pakistani person thinks, which I felt in Europe is very different. In Europe, people will just, faced with a crisis, first of all, because they're not used to crisis, they panic. they panic very quickly. इन्होंने कभी टेररिस्ट अटैक्स भी नहीं देखे, कोई नेगेटिव सिचुएशन इनकी इकोनॉमी में बड़ी हुई नहीं है. So in times of crisis they panic, they don't know how to handle it, and थोड़ा सा हाई प्रेशर अगर हो जाए तो दे आर लाइक कि नहीं मेरे से नहीं हो रहा, दिस इज hampering my work life balance and I can't do this. A Pakistani will always come up with a solution. They will come up with a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. So that's something that I really miss about Pakistan as well. और ये वो चीज़ है जो मुझे अच्छी नहीं लगी about
I
working in
kind
this
of
part
agree
of the
with
world.
you because talking to all the Pakistanis and having so many friends that are working around the world, they face similar kind of challenges. I believe that Pakistanis, like you said, are solution oriented, whereas people within Europe, especially the DACH countries, so you have Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and then
Yeah.
the small ones close to them, are very process oriented. So if there is not a process defined for something, they find it very difficult to actually go about it.
Exactly.
And then they say, let's first make a process and then we'll see what we need to do. And in making that process, in defining the legalities, in figuring out, there is a next challenge. And then the challenges start piling up, and then it becomes difficult for them to really get over it. In the
Exactly.
same
Yeah.
light, Hira, it's interesting that you mentioned, that you're solution oriented. Um, this must have been a source of maybe confidence for you when you were going into Switzerland and actually experiencing that you had a different way of working to them. Did the organization at that time that you were working for, we'll get to Amazon later, but did Switzerland realize this as well for the 8 months that you were there, that you were thinking in a different way compared to most of the other colleagues that came there for that 8-month program?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate that throughout my career, this specific skill that I have has been appreciated, whether it was in Pakistan, whether it was in Switzerland or Amazon. So, um, for me, I have been lucky where people have appreciated it.
Mm,
I have always been noticed for being someone who always come up with the most creative idea and the most, like three possible solutions to solve a problem. I'm known as the person who's focusing on getting things done instead of talking about the 500 problems that we may encounter.
mhm.
So I would say I was recognized for it, yes.
And how did you get your job at Amazon? Let's really get to it. What happened? You were sitting in Pakistan. How did a
Yeah.
girl, like I said, from Faisalabad land this job?
Yeah. Um, so it started with the intention that
Mm,
I want to work and live in Europe. I want an independent life. um, मुझे उस environment में रहना है, मुझे वहाँ पे काम करना है, and personal life को भी upgrade करना है. I had a lot of interests, personal interests outside of work as well. I wanted to travel. I'm very passionate about art, history, culture, and what other place in the world has more art, history, culture than Europe. So started with the intention, okay, this is the place for me. I actively applied online. I did not have any references. Nobody referred me to this job. I did not have any connections in Amazon at all. I applied myself. I got very, very active on LinkedIn and job search portals, and actual career sections of all of these big tech companies. मैंने industries भी अपने लिए shortlist की थी. I knew that I wanted to get into tech. So I was specifically targeting tech companies. I researched a lot how they hire, इनका hiring process किस तरह का होता है, what kind of skill sets they look for. अपनी प्रोफाइल, मेरी प्रोफाइल, मेरा वर्क एक्सपीरियंस कैसे फिट इन हो सकता है वहाँ पर. I kind of upgraded my professional profile, my resume, how I was selling myself to these recruiters and headhunters. I got in touch with recruiters and headhunters as well, and basically that's how I found an open role at Amazon. This is year 2016, where tech companies were also hiring very, very actively. They were hiring a lot. Tech was booming and all the rage in 2015, 2016. So there were a lot of openings in the job market at that time as well. So वो मैंने grab की, उसके लिए apply किया. Amazon called me and they said, hey, you applied for this digital marketing manager role, but we looked at your profile and we think you might be a better fit for this other marketing manager role. Would you be interested? And मैंने थोड़ी सी वो जॉब प्रोफाइल पढ़ी, इंटरेस्टिंग थी, मज़े की थी, रेलेवेंट थी, एंड आई वाज लाइक यस आई विल बी इंटरेस्टेड. I went through a very long interview process. I went through 6 interviews. I was flown to Luxembourg for 5 of these interviews because they wanted to do it in person. उसमें वीज़ा वेटिंग प्रोसेस बहुत लंबा था क्योंकि मैं पाकिस्तान में थी. I had a Pakistani passport at that time. So I had to apply for a visa. There was a long waiting time. But they waited, Amazon waited for me. And they were like, we're used to hiring people from other countries and we understand there's a visa process. It's fine. We'll wait. Did those 5 in-person, very stressful interviews. And basically that's how I got in. बहुत prepare किया था मैंने उन interviews के लिए because I knew that this was the one opportunity that I was getting to move towards the life that I wanted to live. So I prepared really well. I knew exactly Amazon का interview process क्या है. I researched about it. I literally had mock questions written down for me and mock answers. You know, I was very, very well prepared for this interview. And that's basically how I got in. And within like a week of the interviews, they made me an offer. I negotiated the offer. I was like, okay, 5 interviews ke baad they're calling me, so I'm going to ask for more. They met me halfway through the negotiation. They made me the offer again, which I accepted. And then 4 months later, I moved to Luxembourg.
Wow. I want to ask one other thing. There are 2 things that I'm really interested in understanding. First of all,
Yeah.
what I understood is that you also started upping your game in these kind of websites, professional websites like LinkedIn. What did you
Yeah.
do specifically there to get yourself noticed?
I looked at profiles of people who were working in my, in roles similar to mine in Amazon and other tech companies. So, what is a typical marketing manager or a product manager profile in Amazon for other people? Like, what kind of experience do they have? How do they sell themselves? How do they sell their profiles? And also, people who are slightly senior, you know. और उस हिसाब से मैंने अपनी प्रोफाइल जो है वो अपडेट की. आई वुड ऑल्सो से कि उससे पहले जो 7, 8, 9 years गुजारे थे उसमें इंटेंशनली ओवर द years आई हैड इंटेंशनली टेकन अप गुड प्रोजेक्ट्स एज वेल. सो ये नहीं है कि मैं प्रोफाइल बस अपडेट करी थी और उसमें गप्पे मार रही थी और बोंगियां मार दी और आई मेड अप स्टफ. आई डिडंट डू दैट. आई over the last 5-6 years मैंने बहुत meaningful projects खुद लिए हुए थे Nestle में, So there were things and there were good things that I had done that I could talk about as well. It's how you phrase it, how you sell it.
Absolutely.
We come from a culture of modesty and humility. So हमने कई दफ़ा बहुत अच्छा काम किया होता है. We've done a lot, but we don't know how to sell it. So, that's what I tried to do. The things that I had done, good, bad, successes, failures, how can I package them, word them in the correct way and sell them, to these recruiters? Basically market myself and sell myself.
So you did have like context. You had something to talk about. It wasn't just,
Of course.
words. And so this is actually good because this is something that I try to also tell the younger generation that they have to be willing to put themselves out there and they have to talk
Yeah.
about their successes. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about with you, you mentioned that you actually negotiated your salary. First of all, for someone coming from the subcontinent, we can actually do that is a big surprise for many because they don't want to let go of the opportunity. They're like, okay, I'll just enter and then maybe do something over there and try to increase my salary then. But you took the decision to actually negotiate. What made you realize that there was room for negotiation, or were you just playing a bluff?
No, I wasn't playing a bluff. I knew my self-worth. You have to know your worth. अगर आपने पिछले 5, 6, 7 साल में मीनिंगफुल काम किया है जो आपको शुरू से ही करना चाहिए, अगर आपने नहीं किया तो आपकी ऑलरेडी पोजीशन वीक है, ठीक है. सो विच इज व्हाई आई ऑल्सो टेल यंग पीपल दैट टेक ऑन रिस्की प्रोजेक्ट्स, टेक ऑन बिग प्रोजेक्ट्स. इट्स ओके इफ यू फेल, डजंट मैटर. एक्सपीरियंस बिल्ड होगा, यू विल लर्न अ लॉट. सो मुझे पता था कि मैंने मीनिंगफुल चीज़ें की हुई हैं. मैंने प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च किया है कंट्री के लिए, मैंने कंट्री वाइड मार्केटिंग कैंपेन्स लॉन्च की हुई हैं, मैंने एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के सारे ब्रांड्स के लिए मार्केटिंग, डिजिटल मार्केटिंग लीड की हुई है. I planned headcount and people management for an entire department. I set up that department from the scratch. These are good things, and I'm not saying this from a place of arrogance or overconfidence. I'm saying this from a place of belief in myself. These are things that I did, nobody else did them. And in the process, I might have made some mistakes, but there were a lot of successes as well. Having this thought process, you know, अपनी worths को recognize करना is very important. And like I said, Pakistan में बहुत talent है. We are very talented people. We're very smart people. Just because someone has a white skin, you shouldn't think that I cannot say no to them, or I will accept whatever offer they give to me. Let's put facts on the table and let's really look at the skill set that I have. What value I will bring to your company. I will do this for you and I will deliver this for your organization. That's why you also flew me all the way to Luxembourg to interview me. 5 people interviewed me and selected me, made a decision to hire me. This is the value that I have. So I think it's extremely important to negotiate. And फिर आप ठीक है, आप halfway meet कर सकते हैं. जो मैंने मांगा था exactly मुझे Amazon ने वो नहीं दिया, but they did meet me halfway. Which was my objective in the first place.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
And on all of this, what I'm learning is the person that probably had self-doubt when you started your career was able to overcome that self-doubt, and you really put your name, your effort, what you've achieved as the center to whatever you talk about when you move forward. So give me some examples or maybe something where we can talk about for the younger generation how important it is to practice something like maintaining confidence in a professional setting. What would be your go-to advice for the younger generation to increase their confidence?
I think सबसे पहले तो recognize that it doesn't matter what background you're from. It's fine. Einstein also did not go to an Ivy League school. His academic career unfolded outside of an elite university system. Okay, so it's fine. If you did not go to LUMS in Pakistan, I'm not undermining the value of good education. I think good education is very important if you can afford it. मेरे पेरेंट्स के पास तो पैसे ही नहीं थे. They couldn't afford to send me to a elite university. I'm not undermining the value of it. I think it's important. If you have the opportunity, please do get it. If you don't, ये blocker नहीं है आपके लिए. This will not stop you from progressing. We all come from different backgrounds, and हमारी different backgrounds ही हमारी strengths हैं. You know, there is value in diversity. अगर सभी एक जगह से आ गए तो वो सबका thought process एक होगा. So this understanding and this self-belief that your unique background, your unique skill set, your unique strengths are important. It is what is bringing value to the table. You know, you do bring some value to the table. So have an understanding of that. क्या है आपकी strengths? Appreciate करें अपनी strengths को, खुद भी appreciate करें. You know, आप खुद ही नहीं करेंगे तो बाकी लोग किस तरह recognize करेंगे? So it starts with that. It starts from you, yourself, how you think about yourself. The other thing that's important is जब ये पहला bridge आप cross कर लें, the other thing is acquire skills and competencies. नई चीजें सीखना. अगर कुछ नहीं करना आता, सीखें कैसे करना है. I moved to a brand manager role for a short while at Nestle I think it was again my 4th or 5th year, and मुझे एक brand की profit and loss statement पढ़नी नहीं आती थी. I didn't know how to read a P&L statement of a product or a brand because that's not what they taught me in my business school where I went. And profit and loss statements are very unique to an organization as well, you know.
Absolutely.
और वहाँ पे भी नहीं किसी कोई ट्रेनिंग देता, और लड़कियों को तो वैसे कोई नहीं बताता. लड़के फिर इकट्ठे होके एक दूसरे से सीख लेते हैं, लड़की बेचारी रह जाती है, उसको कोई सिखाने वाला नहीं होता. So I didn't know how to read it. I recognized कि ये मुझे नहीं आता है करना. Sat down with a person, requested them to give me some time, upskilled myself, learned that, you know, technical skill कि ये सारे heads इनका क्या मतलब है, where does this come from, ये variables कैसे impact होते हैं. Skills acquire करें, competencies acquire करें. जब आप नई चीजें सीख लेते हैं जो आपको नहीं करनी आती, उससे भी आपका naturally confidence increase होता है. अगर आप सीखेंगे ही नई चीजें, तो आप खुद को यही, you know, remind कराते रहेंगे कि आपको अंदर पता होगा कि ये मुझे नहीं आता, you know.
Yeah.
So the day you decide to acquire new skills, learn new competencies, that's when आपका अपना mindset भी change होना शुरू हो जाता है, and
You
it
know,
kind of
it's,
builds confidence.
I think in many professional universities, let's say, let me rephrase that. In many business universities, जो आपको MBA करवाते हैं in Pakistan, I don't know what it is rest of the world, they don't necessarily teach you the basics of how to read a brand P&L. They'll teach you accounting and
I
finance.
think I lost your...
Can you hear me now? So this is going to reconnect,
Yeah.
but you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying in most of the universities in Pakistan, they don't necessarily teach you how to read P&L statements. Yes, they teach you about finance and accounting, the, you know, profit and loss, cash flows, etc. But when it comes to an actual P&L of a brand, it's a bit of a mystery for many. The second thing
Yeah.
that I noticed in these universities was also that market research, the way it's done, the different types of market research they might talk about, but they don't talk about a consumer panel. They don't talk about market shares, value shares, volume shares. So there is always this need to find the right kind of people to talk to in an organization. That makes sense. For you, how did you feel when it came to the two topics of mentorship and peer support? Did you find that easy for yourself, or was that a journey as well when you joined Nestle and then later in Switzerland and then afterwards also in Amazon? Take me through some
Yeah.
of those challenges and how did you go about, especially finding a proper mentor?
Yeah. You know, mentorship and learning and upskilling, I think it's a journey. Mentors are very important. उनके बगैर I think आप survive नहीं कर सकते professional world में. But mentorship भी change होती है. It has changed for me over the years. You know, when you're younger, you're inexperienced. So everything, you learn a lot of new things. So a lot of people who are, you know, more experienced than you or a level senior than you can be your mentors. It's easier to find mentors when you're younger and when you're inexperienced. As you grow older and as you yourself acquire more skills and more understanding, आपकी अपनी professional development deeper होती जाती है, it becomes harder and harder to find, you know, guides. क्योंकि over years आपको भी बहुत कुछ पता होता है. So अब इससे ऊपर आप कहाँ से सीखेंगे और, you know, so it becomes more difficult to find mentors, I think, as you get older and as you progress in your career. But उसका भी solution मैंने ढूंढ लिया है. उसका solution ये है, I think at a young age it's very easy to find mentors. Look around your, you know, the industry that you're operating in, आपको बहुत easily आपसे ज़्यादा experienced लोग मिल जाएंगे. As you grow older, I have turned to my peers more than leaders for mentorship. हाँ, मेरे से सीनियर लोग भी हैं जिनके पास मैं जा सकती हूँ, बट मैंने ये डिस्कवर किया है कि हम कई दफ़ा अपने peers को बिल्कुल इग्नोर कर देते हैं. There are a lot of people around me who have different strengths, and I make it a point to learn from people who are good at something that I'm not so good at. At Amazon, I work with this wonderful Italian girl. She is a superstar when it comes to analytical skills. The way she can comprehend large amounts of data and immediately draw conclusions from it for a business solution is it's amazing how she does it. She's very quick at it. She's my mentor for analytical skills. मेरी peer है वो, we're the same age, same level. There's another person who works in my team who is actually younger than me. वो मेरे से 2 levels नीचे है, junior है, और age में भी I think she's at least 7 to 8 years younger than me. She has amazing social skills which enable her to break the ice with senior leadership very, very quickly. She is best friends with the director and the VP just because of her social skills. She's my mentor for social skills. So मैंने mentorship को अब इस तरह देखना शुरू कर दिया है कि it's everyone around you. You can't wait for a magical person to arrive from the sky जो कि आपका mentor बन जाएगा और फिर आपकी जिंदगी perfect हो जाएगी, सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा.
Yeah.
Mentors are all around you. There are interns in your organizations, trust me, that can mentor you on some skill or the other.
Absolutely.
क्या वो skills हैं आपने develop करनी है, उनको पहले identify करें, and then look around you. कौन लोग हैं जिनकी वो strengths हैं? Talk to them. They'll be happy to help you.
You know, this is an interesting part that you mentioned that हम हमेशा mentorship को ना ऊपर की तरफ देखते हैं, seniority में देखते हैं. But with this digital shift, I've also noticed that we had a reverse mentoring program in our organization where youngsters were asked to train on digital topics the senior members of the board. And I was selected as one of them. And I realized that day कि बहुत कुछ बदल गया है. And sometimes it is important for the culture to also move along and make that realization for the senior people in the organization. But at the same time, it's important for the youngsters to realize that this whole concept of mentorship can be across the board. So I really like
Yeah.
that you're talking about the young ones and the older ones and your own peer group. So
Yeah.
with mentoring, I guess it's also important to mention the importance of networking because there is only so much that you would be able to find within your organization when it comes to peers and mentors. How is your networking game? And I don't necessarily mean it in a negative way or conniving way, but generally the importance of networking is underestimated. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think networking is extremely important. When you're working in an organization, you tend to stay in that organization's little box. And वो by design होता है, you like that's the place where you go every single day. There's a set of people that you're talking to every single day. So हर चीज उस एक डब्बे के अंदर बंद रहती है और आपका thought process भी एक बॉक्स के अंदर केज हो जाता है. I think the minute you step out and talk to people outside of your organization, similar roles or slightly dissimilar roles as well, but people in other industries, in other organizations, like it's an eye opener. To be honest, this is something I've started doing from this year. मैं ये पहले नहीं कर रही थी बहुत ज़्यादा. Naturally, I'm a bit of an introvert, so मेरे लिए social connection initiate करना भी it doesn't, it's not a natural part of my personality to be an extrovert, make 500 friends everywhere. But I've realized the importance of this over the last 1 year, और ये 2024 का goal है मेरा कि I need to connect with people in other industries, in other organizations, spend time with them, talk about work and the challenges and the business issues that we're facing, and learn from them. Everybody has a lot to follow. And it's not very difficult to do, Adil, I realized. LinkedIn पे इतने events announce होते हैं, marketing conferences, product management conferences in different parts of the world. पाकिस्तान में भी अगर आप रहते हैं तो बहुत सी इस तरह की conferences और summits होती हैं जो कि you can find out, go there, attend them, and that's how you meet people. And I think a great way to meet people is also starting your own podcast and inviting them as guests. And
Absolutely.
I think it's one of the great way, one of the good
One
ways
great way
to
to do
connect
it.
with people.
This is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I started the podcast. I wanted to connect with especially Pakistanis around the world, and I wanted to see what other people are doing. It's by chance that you're also within the same kind of industry as myself, but I have talked
Hmm.
to people that are speech therapists. I've talked to people that are artists, and I always get this new understanding of what the world around us looks like. So,
Yeah.
I've the one thing that I want to actually talk about now is starting from the initial conversation. I was fascinated by reading up about you before the interview. So,
Hmm.
it's a really positive, I think, motivational story to talk to someone like you who pretty much is an independent woman living, through different parts of your life. You're now married, but
Yeah.
as you know, we've been talking about you as a person and an individual. And I want to
Yeah.
understand what is the importance of financial independence to you when it
Hmm.
comes to women being financially independent in this day and age. Talk about it from a cultural perspective if you'd like. Talk about it from your own personal experience. Give me some
Hmm.
insights in your thoughts on financial independence for women.
Yeah. You know, Adil, I have a point of view about this, and I'm going to say it today in public for the first time. I think um, इस टॉपिक पे इतनी बात होती है, विमेन एम्पावरमेंट, विमेन इक्वालिटी. आई थिंक सबसे पहले तो ये अंडरस्टैंड करना ज़रूरी है कि डू विमेन वांट फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस. सम डू, सम डोंट. आई थिंक दोनों केसेस ठीक है, इट्स ओके. देर आर women who don't want financial independence also, by the way, which is also fine. We shouldn't shame them for it. I personally was someone who wanted to be independent financially. um, for me, it's a way to be empowered. It's a way to build self confidence again. It allows me to build a security and safety net around me. I believe I should not be dependent on any other person. मुझे अपना ख्याल खुद रखना चाहिए और मेरे में ये एबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि मैं अपना ख्याल खुद रख सकूं. I have a very, very loving husband. He is the best thing that has happened to me in life. But that does not mean कि मैं अपनी identity, अपनी independence खत्म कर दूं. That's how I think. Um, Money, I think, is a very important thing. Contrary to what we've been taught when we were children. मैं जब छोटी थी तो मुझे ये सिखाया गया कि मनी बुरी चीज़ होती है, और जो लोग, people who are seeking money are greedy, and people who have money are bad people. I completely disagree with it. As I got more money, as I grew in my professional career, I realized how much better it made my life.
Mm.
Money is a very important thing. सबके पास होना चाहिए. मनी बनाना सीखें और
Mm.
मनी मैनेजमेंट भी सीखें. आपका लाइफस्टाइल अपग्रेड होता है. आप यू विल हैव एक्सेस टू गुड हेल्थ केयर, गुड एजुकेशन, a good home and comfort which you deserve, which
Mm.
everybody should have. And it's extremely important to make money and to be financially independent. क्यों आपने अपने आप को dependent और suffocated रखना है financially. So I mean
You
that's how
talked
I
about
think about
the
money and financially independence.
you talked about the financial aspect of money in a very interesting way, and one of the things that I highlighted was money management. We don't necessarily
Hmm.
learn money management growing up. So the question would be, when you started your job in Nestle and you were living alone, you
Yeah.
talked about 25,000 rupees back then. Yes, it would have been a big amount. Like, and I'm sure that living alone, it must have taught you how to manage that money. Do you have any instances where the 25,000 didn't go too far, or how and when you started learning about paying the bills?
I started learning about paying the bills as soon as I moved out of home. As soon as I
Mm.
moved outside of my parents' home and their shelter, and started making my own, income. That's when I started paying my own bills. My parents were also never very rich. I don't come from like a millionaire, very, very well-to-do family. We're a humble, well-educated, but very simple household. So मेरे कुछ goals भी थे शुरू से, I had set certain goals for myself. My parents had gone through a lot of financial troubles when I was in school. मैंने उनको स्ट्रगल करते हुए देखा था, उनका लाइफस्टाइल देखा था, एंड आई डिसाइडेड कि आई विल नॉट पुट माई सेल्फ इन दैट सिचुएशन एवर. I will make sure that I safeguard myself financially and I protect myself financially. So I started thinking like that and doing it from a very young age. So वो 25,000 भी जो था उसको भी मैंने smartly ही हमेशा use किया. Learned a lot of things on the way. I wouldn't say कि मुझे किसी ने money management सिखाई. That's also like one problem that women face in Pakistan. I think हमें पैसे manage करने कैसे ये भी कोई सिखाने वाला नहीं होता. Again, हमारा education system भी नहीं हमें ये चीज़ें सिखाता. और हमारी जो सहेलियां होती हैं उनको भी नहीं आता क्योंकि वो भी women in Pakistan है. So लड़की कहाँ से सीखेगी? So you don't get a lot of guidance, and personally I learned by trial and error, but I think that in today's world, it's 2024, I think there are a lot of resources available to learn about it. Literally all you have to do is go on YouTube and search, how do I invest?
Yeah.
This is the amount of money I have, how do I invest? Ask ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Literally, it's so easy nowadays. When I was younger, इतना आसान नहीं था, आता भी नहीं था करना. Over time learn kiya, but I think if you're somebody young right now, you have a lot of free resources available to learn how to manage money. And I also say this to parents who have young children: teach them about money. Teach them about investing and the multiplier effect of money today when they're 15 years old. They need to know this today, so that they can thank you when they're 40 years old.
Absolutely. It's something that I think most of us need to learn. हमारे यहाँ तो यही होता है, पैसा थोड़ा सा आया कमेटी में डाल दो, कमेटी मैच्योर होगी तो ज़मीन ले लो, ज़मीन की प्राइस ऊपर जाएगी तो उसको बेच के फाइल ले लो. भाई किसी तरह प्रोडक्टिविटी ऑफ मनी नीड्स टू कम इन. वी आर जस्ट somehow or the other, या तो सोना खरीद लो या ज़मीन ले लो या फाइल ले लो. हमें प्रोडक्टिव ownership and productive investment of money कोई नहीं सिखाता. So I think that's also a mindset thing, because we don't have a government that takes care of its elderly people. हमारा कोई provident fund का system इतना अच्छा नहीं है. तो ये चीजें, it comes from fear. We've
And
talked
I would
about,
also say, sorry, I cut you off.
No, please.
I would also say it starts with setting a goal, setting a financial goal. क्या है आपका financial goal? You want to retire by the age of 50? Is that the goal? Okay, then work backwards from it. You want to invest in property? 2 घर खरीदने आपके. That could be your financial goal. So set specific financial goals. क्या करना क्या चाहते हैं आप? And then work backwards from it, और फिर उसके हिसाब से homework करें और resources देखें and learn how to manage money and make money work for you.
Absolutely. और आई थिंक आजकल जो है ना, एक वो भी कल्चर चला हुआ है कि गेट रिच क्विक स्कीम्स लोगों के जहन में बहुत आते हैं, बट देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ एफर्ट दैट गोज इनटू बिल्डिंग समथिंग दैट कैन वर्क ऑन इट्स ओन. But yeah, I think that's for another conversation. But you're married, you talked about that, and you have a very loving husband. I want to understand, this was a choice that you made after you were already a working woman. You got to choose your life partner, but as a married person, and not just as a married woman, but as a married person, what is the role of a life partner in one's independence? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I don't think anyone can progress in their life and achieve their goals in a happy, fulfilling way if your partner and your spouse is not aligned with you. I think it's the role of a spouse and a partner is extremely important. Choosing your partner is the most important decision you will make in your life. It will determine the path of your life. So बहुत ज़रूरी है spouse का role. I mean, spouses need to support each other for their, for each other's goals and ambitions. एक दूसरे के क्या इंटरेस्ट्स और पैशंस हैं, क्या गोल्स हैं, क्या चीज़ें आप दोनों अचीव करना चाहते हैं लाइफ में, एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट करना, एक दूसरे को मेंटोर करना उस जर्नी में इज़ एक्सट्रीमली इम्पॉर्टेंट. एक दूसरे के लिए वो जर्नी इनेबल करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. सो आई थिंक उसके बगैर तो कुछ हो नहीं सकता. फॉर मी पर्सनली, my husband has been like my biggest support system. He is the one who guides me, mentors me, gives me advice. I do the same for him. We are each other's problem solvers as well, but we are each other's biggest cheerleaders as well. हम एक दूसरे को अपने ambitions achieve करने में रोकते नहीं हैं. हम एक दूसरे के लिए बैरियर नहीं बनते. बहुत सी चीज़ें हम इकट्ठी भी करते हैं, बट वी ऑल्सो रिकग्नाइज दैट वी आर टू इंडिविजुअल पीपल जिसकी अपनी भी कोई विशेज़ और ड्रीम्स हैं और इंटरेस्ट्स हैं, and we encourage each other to pursue that.
Amazing. You guys are living in Luxembourg, you're working in Amazon.
Yes.
With this opportunity of working in a setting that is very, I would say it's still multicultural. The Amazon office is very multicultural. You probably have insights into the future of tech from all over the world, I would imagine. Where do you think technology is headed? How do you see it?
Yeah. I'll share my personal opinion. I think work in general, regardless of which industry you're in, and it will happen faster in Western countries versus in some of the other parts of the world. I think work and life will become a lot more automated. It will become a lot more personalized, and it will become a lot more efficient. बहुत सी नॉन स्ट्रेटेजिक और नॉन एफिशिएंट वर्क स्ट्रीम्स जो होती थी वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता ख़त्म हो जाएंगी. सो दिस इज़ नॉट अ फैड, इट्स अ रियल थिंग. गेट ऑन द बैंड वैगन नाउ. मैं उसी तरह सोचती हूँ कि जब व्हेन आई वाज अ फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट, डिजिटल मार्केटिंग वाज द न्यू थिंग, सोशल मीडिया वाज ऑल द रेज. उस वक्त बहुत से लोग उसको इग्नोर कर रहे थे, या अंडरमाइन कर रहे थे, एंड डिड नॉट वांट टू गेट ऑन दैट बैंड वैगन. पीपल हु डिड, वो अच्छे रह गए. हाँ, उनका करियर भी जल्दी एक्सेलरेट हुआ, प्रोग्रेस हुआ. ये वही टाइम है दोबारा. we've come a full circle now with Gen AI and everything that's happening in the tech world. This is the time to get on board, upskill yourself, learn about these new technologies, and learn how to use them in your organization and for your business. This is the time to do it because चीज़ें बहुत change होंगी आगे, in my opinion.
स्टूडेंट्स के लिए आजकल क्या ज़रूरी है? वो जब AI के बारे में सुनते हैं, it's Gen AI or just AI in general? And when we say Gen AI, we mean generative AI. Where should they look to getting more information about AI? Do you have any resources that you could recommend?
It's all over YouTube. Trust me. It's very simple to get information nowadays. All of the information is available on the internet for free. Listen to thought leaders. That's something that I would suggest. A lot of people are talking about AI. Everybody has their own opinions. I would suggest listen to Eric Schmidt, for example, who was the CEO of Google. Listen to the tech leaders and what they're saying about it. या जो ex-tech leaders थे और CEOs थे. Their vision, their point of view is the most accurate. It will give you the best view of what's happening and what's coming up. So I think that is the best resource to stay updated on it. For young people, Adil, I would also say कि ये टेक्निकल स्किल्स हैं, ये तो डेवलप करनी ही है साथ. और मुझे लगता है ये आसान होती हैं डेवलप करनी. यूट्यूब पर जाके पॉडकास्ट सुन लें और इंटरव्यूज सुन लें, कोर्सेज ले लें फ्री. आपको बहुत सी टेक्निकल चीज़ें आप सीख लेंगे. For young, this is the easy part, learning what Gen AI is and how you can use it for a business and what are the tools that exist. This is the easiest part. For young people, I would suggest that the more difficult part and the important thing are behavioral skills that you need to learn. I think जैसे जैसे tech advance हो रहा है, as tech accelerates, behavioral skills will be a lot more important.
Mhm.
क्योंकि बहुत सी जो आपकी टास्क्स थी और काम था वो तो एआई टूल्स कर देंगे आपके लिए, ठीक
Mm.
है. आपका क्या रोल है? you know what are the behaviors that you can learn at a young age, or if you're early on in your career, um, that can be helpful for you. I think that is also an interesting thing to think about. And for people in Pakistan, in our country, I would say simple behavioral skills भी सीखें, चीज़ों की ओनरशिप लेना सीखें. इस मेंटालिटी से बाहर निकलें कि ये मेरा काम नहीं है, ये उसका काम है.
Mm.
इस मेंटालिटी से बाहर निकलें कि मैंने तो उसको ईमेल की थी, उसने जवाब नहीं दिया, ये चीज़ें पुरानी हो गई हैं.
Yeah.
ओनरशिप लें चीज़ों की, लीड फ्रॉम द फ्रंट, टेक चार्ज ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड इनिशिएटिव्स. ये एक बहुत बड़ा बिहेवियर चेंज है जो आई थिंक वी ऑल कैन टेक एंड अडेप्ट. अपने आप को मार्केट करना सीखें. हम वी कम फ्रॉम अ कल्चर ऑफ ह्यूमिलिटी एंड मॉडेस्टी,
Mm.
जो कि अच्छी बात है, इट्स अ गुड थिंग, बट इन अ प्रोफेशनल वर्ल्ड इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प यू. लर्न टू मार्केट योर सेल्फ.
Absolutely.
Learn data models and data science, but not just from a theoretical perspective. Learn how to apply it to business problems. That's extremely important. किताब तो आप पढ़ लेंगे मगर उसको रियल वर्ल्ड में अप्लाई कैसे करना है वो सीखें. So I think these are some of the skills that young people should focus on and learn.
Fantastic. Hira, I want to thank you so much for your time. But before we leave, I always try to leave on a more slightly entertaining level. And I do ask my podcast guests a couple of questions. Call it like, I guess, quick fire. So I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to answer the first thing that comes to your mind. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So the first question, very simple, very straightforward. Are you a chai person or a coffee person?
I'm a coffee person.
Is it coming from Nestle and the experiences there? Yeah, bas bachpan se hi.
I think Nescafe. I drink Nescafe, by the way. Still,
Oh,
I'm in
wow.
Europe, and a lot of Europeans would totally judge me for drinking Nescafe, but I love Nescafe Gold. I think it's the best coffee to have.
Fantastic. Okay, morning person, night person.
Oh, definitely a night person. I'm not a morning person.
And are you more of the one who loves analytics or are you the one who loves creativity?
I like creativity.
All right. If you were to travel anywhere in the world, what's your first destination that you would want to go to?
Somewhere on the coastline, but I really like Switzerland as well. So let's say Switzerland.
All right. And generally speaking, when it comes to food, are you Desi food lover or some more international cuisine?
Both. I love food. I can eat everything.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Pasta.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And generally speaking, if you had the opportunity to change the work that you're currently doing, what would be that other job that Hira would be doing today?
Ooh, I think I would, if I wasn't in the tech world and doing product management for 8 countries, I would be a writer.
Interesting. Wow. So have you written anything recently, like poetry, a book, novel? What would it be?
I am in the process of writing a book.
Nice. Zabardast. So, this actually concludes our interview. Hira, I want to thank you so much for taking out the time and actually reaching out to me so that we could have the opportunity to do this session.
Thank
Are there
you.
any closing remarks, any statements that you'd like to make before we end the podcast?
I would just say something that I once read in a Charles Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities. उसकी एक बड़ी iconic starting line है, which says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. And I think हमारी life जो है उसके सब parts ऐसे ही होते हैं. Good times
बिल्कुल.
होते हैं, worst times होते हैं, wisdom होती है, and foolishness भी होती है. Embrace it all and pursue your goals and live a full life.
Amazing. Hira, thank you so much once again. It was such a pleasure talking to you and listening to your journey. It is so inspiring. And I'm hoping that if you ever do complete that book, it has this whole journey in it because I'd love to read it as well.
Yes, hopefully, inshallah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.